What's going on, everybody? I am here to do a review for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the sequel to the 2018 worldwide phenomenon, because it definitely was a phenomenon of Black Panther. And this is the closing of Phase 4. Yes, Black Panther Wakanda Forever concludes the Phase 4 of the MCU, whether it be film or show, and then it's going to kick back off with Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania come November, come February. So this is probably one of the most anticipated films of the year, and probably one of the most anticipated films in the MCU by far, probably since Endgame. Especially, with the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman back in 2020. A lot of people were wondering, how is this movie going to go? What direction are they going to go with this film? Especially since he passed, to my knowledge, literally probably around 3 months before they were about to start filming the new movie or the sequel. So then they had to kind of scrap whatever idea they were going to have and then go with the one that they did for this film that came out today. And I was actually looking at some things. Then Ryan Coogler basically said that the original script was going to be post snap, or what happened with Wakanda after the blip or the snap happened with Thanos, and they all came back in Endgame, because that's the last time we saw T'Challa, was when he came back and was helping all of the Avengers take down Thanos a second time in order to save the world in Endgame. And that was basically what the original script was going to be. But of course, with his passing, they weren't able to do that. So they had to go into a whole nother direction. So basically what this movie is about, what Black Panther Wakanda Forever is they are dealing with loss. And that is the loss of their king, who is T'Challa. Now, one of the biggest controversies around this movie before it even got released was when Kevin Feige announced that they were not going to recast T'Challa. A lot of people was very upset. Some people were like, okay, I can understand that, because maybe it's too soon to recast. But there was a lot of people that were upset that they did not recast him, because they felt that T'Challa as a character had so much more story to go on with. And I felt, initially at that time, I was like, okay, if they're not going to recast them, it is what it is. They're going to keep moving forward. But then as time went on and I started to see people's point of views, I started to understand what people were talking about. And one of my favorite storylines when it came to Black Panther was him and Storm being married. In case y'all are not familiar, T'Challa and Storm, or Aurora Monroe, which is her real name, were married in the comic books. They were married for a brief, while. They had a child, and then because certain people was upset by their marriage, they ended up just annulling the marriage just out of nowhere in the most tacky way possible in the comic books. And I always felt that because they didn't recast T'Challa, we got robbed of seeing that ceremony, that wedding, on the big screen. I said that would have been something to really, really be exciting to see. And I said that's something I really wanted to see, especially since when he got introduced to the MCU. I said, oh snap, this could be a way for them to do the Storm and T'Challa wedding or marriage, and it'll be a way to slide in that the X-Men are coming. So I thought that, you kill two birds with one stone, but with the way that they went with it, it looks like that's most likely not going to happen. So basically this movie is, they're dealing with loss, they're dealing with tragedy. Of course, the king is now dead, and now the people of Wakanda have to learn how to move on and grieve and deal with not only the loss of their king, but how they're going to move forward as a society, as Wakandans. And basically, how are they going to function without a Black Panther? Because we all know that the Black Panther is the protector. And then he had, two roles. He was a king, and he was a ruler, and he was the protector as the Black Panther. And if you remember how the first one ended, in the post-credit scene, it had T'Challa go to the UN and just basically said that they were literally about to have Wakanda slightly open up to the world as far as their resources. And of course, their main resource is vibranium. So that's another, I guess you could say, another conflict that they're having to deal with. Is not only is your king and your protector dead, but now it's a free for all where everyone's trying their best to get their hands on vibranium by any means how they see fit. And some of the people in here do some of the most grimiest things in order to get it. This is also the reason why I wish the Claw character was still around, because that's all his character was known for doing in the comics, was going around and finding a way to steal vibranium for his own personal gain. That's why I wish they could have kept this character alive, because he would have fit perfectly into this film as a villain. And also too, because Claw is one of Black Panther's biggest villains. To me, Claw is to Black Panther's, Joker as Black Panther is to Claw's Batman, if that makes sense. They kind of do this tit for tat thing over and over again, sort of like how Batman and the Joker do. So I wish they would have kept him alive in that aspect right there. So we're dealing with loss. The king is dead. Their ruler is dead. The protector is gone. And because he wanted to open up the world of Wakanda with the resources anyway, you now have people who are being greedy, who want to get their hands on that vibranium to do whatever it is with them. And now, because Queen Ramonda, who was played by Angela Bassett, who is just phenomenal in anything that she does, I don't care what anybody says, but let's just be real here. She's one of the best actresses of our time, and probably one of the best actresses of all time. So now with her being the queen, ruler, of the Wakanda, she's pretty much taking the spot that T'Challa once held. So now she has to be the queen. She's a mourning mother, and she is trying to hold it all together while still doing the duties of being a queen and practically the ruler of Wakanda herself. And it's like a lot that weighs down on her shoulders to have to do all of these meetings while still having to run a nation at the same time. And that just kind of gives you an insight of how a lot of these world leaders, how they actually are in a sense, but not completely, even though, because this is a film at the end of the day, and it's a comic book movie as well. But that pretty much takes care of, actually added on more to what's going on is, not only are you dealing with a loss, but now you're also dealing with a new threat. So you have loss that you're dealing with. You have dealing with people trying to be greedy to get that vibranium. And now you're dealing with a new threat with the main antagonist of the film, which I'm going to get into in a second. So let me just start off with what I liked about the film. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. The acting in this sequel, in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, was so good, so great across the board. Again, Angela Bassett knocks it out of the park every single time. Like, she commands every time she's on screen. Every line that she delivers, everything that she says, the way she emotes, and gets you, like the emotions that she brings with her character, you actually feel for her. Like, you feel that she's going through a lot and trying to hold it all together as a queen, a ruler, and as a mother. Because remember, she still has a daughter. Even though she lost her son, she still has her daughter that she, is being around and, trying to help through with the grieving process while grieving herself. So it's a lot that's on her plate. So Angela Bassett, you don't have to go and critique too much of her acting, because we all know that she's going to act her soul off. Put everything into it. Now, who did a really good performance, or a really good job at this time around, is Letitia Wright, and she's the one that plays Shuri. Now, of course, in the first movie, she's playing a teenager. Teenagers, they act a certain way. They're always, that's just how teenagers are. But in this movie, because it was more serious in tone, she had to play an adult. She had to really step up. She had to really take command and control, and really try to not so much fill her brother's shoes, but kind of fill a void, while also at the same time, like her mother, grieving in the process. In this film, you don't really get the sense of Shuri being a teenager. You get the sense of Shuri being a grown woman. Like, the way that she talks, the way that her emotions come out, the way that she's carrying herself. If you put her character side by side with the 2018 Black Panther film with this one, you definitely see a major difference. And when I tell you, the way she even delivered her lines in this movie, it pulls out your heartstrings as well. Like, she really, really delivered in this movie, because now she had to step up into, basically, I guess you could say, a lead actress role. Like, think about a person who was just in a supporting role in the first movie that bumped up to basically a lead acting role or lead actress positioning for this film. And she really killed it. I really, really, really enjoyed her performance in this movie. And I think anyone who sees this movie is going to feel the same way too. Then again, you got coming back, you have Denai Guerrera, who plays Okoye. Of course, one of the best parts of the first Black Panther movie, she's the general of the Dora Milaje, who is basically the first to command. She basically, in this movie, she's dealing with the same things that the Queen and Shuri is going through, while also still having to be this tough leader of this group of women who are fighters and having to accomplish whatever mission it is that is set in front of them, while still dealing with the loss of their king, because T'Challa is probably one of the best kings that they've had and probably one of the best rulers. So it hits a little bit different when you lose someone like that, and someone that's almost like a brother. It's almost like they had a brotherly sister bond. If you look at how the relationship was in the first film, that's what it felt like. It's almost like Okoye was like the other sibling, instead of it just being Shuri and T'Challa, it was T'Challa, Shuri, and Okoye. And that's where it kind of felt there. And something happens with her character in this movie where it almost makes you want to shed a tear. There's a couple of times in this movie that makes you want to shed a tear. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It didn't get me. One of them did, but there's a few of them that sprinkled out throughout the movie. And the one that got me really caught me off guard. Like, I think it caught the entire audience off guard. But yes, we are glad that Okoye is back. Definitely one of the best parts of the Black Panther franchise for sure. Then, of course, you brought M'Baku back, leader of the Jabari tribe up in the mountains. And of course, with his character, he's intimidating, like we always know him to be, but he's also the comic relief of the movie. Like, a lot of the things that he says and how he says them, of course, is going to generate a laughter or a chuckle from the audience. And, he kind of, doing his own thing, but he's still being M'Baku at the same time. You can tell that now he's a little bit more closer with the kingdom. Because, in the first one, he was a little bit more distant because they were, it seemed like it was a conflict between T'Challa and M'Baku, especially in the first one when they were fighting to see who would get the throne. And it seemed like there was always conflict there, but it wasn't nothing like him and Killmonger. Like, when I say him and Killmonger, I'm talking about T'Challa and Killmonger, where they were trying to kill each other, or Killmonger was trying to kill him. So it's like he just kind of, did his own thing. But now he seems a little bit more ingrained into the kingdom, or to the main part of Wakanda itself. And you'll see what I mean if you watch the movie, how and why that is, and why he's so more tied in with the story, not with the story, but with the kingdom within Wakanda itself. As a matter of fact, I think I saw more scenes in this movie with him in that throne room in Wakanda, more so than I saw him in his own tribe, in the Jabari tribe in the mountains. They only had like a small little part in the Jabari tribe. I wish I could explore that a little bit more so we can learn a little bit more about their people. But he spent more time in that main part than anything. But it's always good to see his character. They brought back Everett Ross into the story. Now it's almost like because he actually, went into Wakanda because of what happened in the first one. He's almost like their outside connect, and almost like a tie-in, because he is a CIA agent. So he can it's almost like he's like the in-between. Like, he can report to them about what's going on. I don't want to say necessarily like a spy, because it's not like he's sending them intel all the time. But if they do call him, it's not like they can't get in contact with him. It's like they'll know where he is. And if they make a call, then, they're going to reach out to him for whatever information that he can deliver to them that could be beneficial for Wakanda, just in case, especially now that Wakanda has opened its world as far as the resources up. So now they are vulnerable. So they're going to need someone that they can trust on the outside to help them out, just in case something does happen on or within Wakanda itself. So I think that pretty much covers all of the returning characters. But of course, with it being a new film, there's also new characters. One of the new characters, and it's a person that's going to be around for a little bit, well, not even a little bit, a lot of bit, because they're actually getting their own show, and that is Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. So, you know, Riri Williams, she got introduced into Marvel as a character, I think back in 2016. So she's a fairly young character, about 6 years old. She goes to MIT, which I believe is in Boston. I think MIT is in Boston. Someone can correct me if I am incorrect. And she's very intelligent. I mean, when I tell you this young lady's intellect is so great. I mean, wow. Like, some of the stuff that she was doing in this movie and putting together was simply amazing. Like, it was just mind blowing how intelligent she is. And, you know, seeing her Mach 1, I think it's called a Mach 1 suit, which is basically the same kind of suit that Iron Man had when he was making his very first suit, almost like a prototype, was just, that whole sequence was just amazing. And then seeing her in her current suit was nice as well. It's a good introduction to this character. It was played very well by the actress whose name is Dominique Thorne. If you saw the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, she was in that. She doesn't have a lot of acting credits, but this is really going to propel her to the next level. I really did enjoy her character, and seeing movies like this is exactly why I keep saying Black people need to get into STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I think I alluded to that when I saw the first Black Panther movie, but her character was, you know, loving, you know, she was a lovely character. She also too was a slight comedic relief of the movie as well, with some of the stuff that she was saying. And, you know, she's a 19-year-old girl going to MIT. She's probably one of the few Black women that is there at that school. So, you know, and she just has an amazing amount of intellect, and she's a good introduction or insert into this world. And I like how they did it in an organic way, as far as telling the story of how she got into Wakanda, seeing as how she's not a Wakandan resident herself. And like I said, this is an introduction for her because she is getting her own show on Disney Plus next year, I believe, and it's called Ironheart. In the movie, they did not call her Ironheart, and I'm glad they didn't, because we don't need to know that's what she's about to become. We know she's going to become that, but we're going to pretend like we don't know that's what she's about to become. We know Riri Williams is going to become Ironheart eventually, but let that happen in her show and not in the movie. Like, I'm gonna be honest, that kind of probably would have felt some type of way if they just called her Ironheart in this movie and we don't get the proper introduction of her being called Ironheart in her own show. Like, I feel like that's the perfect time or the perfect place to mention about her being Ironheart. Now, the last person that I'm gonna talk about who was a new character is Namor. Namor well, in the comics, he's Namor the Submariner, but just in this movie, he's Namor. Now, the controversy around this one, when it came to how they were doing his character, was making it this Mesoamerican, Mayan, Mexican type culture, like, spin on the character. Now, in the comics, Namor is none of that. He's none of that. He's not even Mexican in the comics, but they made him Mexican in this movie. And at first I was like, oh, okay, let's see what they're going to do. Like, what kind of rabbit are they going to pull out of their hat when it comes to this one? But what they did was, you know, because they made Namor the way that he is, there was a part in the movie where they just, it's almost like this block in the movie literally just talked about their culture. And I think the scene probably lasted all of 15 minutes. It felt like, literally, like, if you see the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. To give an idea of what their culture is like and who Namor is, how he got his name, which I thought was very interesting, because I was like, oh, okay, I see how Namor got his name, how he, you know, came to be, how he was born. But yeah, he lives in this underwater, I was about to say facility, this underwater world called Talokan. Now, in the comics, we know that Namor is from a place called Atlantis, and we also know in DC Aquaman is from Atlantis. But the thing is, because Aquaman is so popular, even though Namor is older by comic book standards and years, they decided to change that, which is why the cultural thing changed it as well, because they didn't want to mix up the two. You know, you have an Atlantis in Marvel and you have an Atlantis in DC, even though the Atlantis in DC is more popular than the Atlantis in Marvel. So they decided to just go with that narrative of that right there when it came to Namor. And I'm going to say this, Namor was a very formidable threat in this film. And I'm glad he was, because in the comics, Namor and T'Challa, or Black Panther, have a few conflicts. Like, they have constant battles with each other, where in some cases Namor won quite a few of those battles. T'Challa won some, and I like the constant back and forth when it came to this one. And it's one thing that Namor said in this movie that pretty much confirmed, if Ms. Marvel, the show Ms. Marvel didn't confirm it for us, this one definitely did. And I'm gonna just say it, they're coming. The mutants are coming. Like, I'm gonna just leave it like that. He said that line in this movie, and I said I couldn't believe he actually said it, but he did. There's your little small spoiler right there for those of you who plan on seeing this movie. I'm sorry I had to kind of like let that one slide. I swear, I promise that's going to be the only little spoiler that comes from me in this review. I forgot to mention the Nakia. I forgot about her for a little bit. Lupita Nyong'o, she came back. You know, Nakia, she is now not living in Wakanda anymore. She's not even on assignment. She is now living in Haiti, being a teacher over there. She's just trying to get away from it all. She she is mourning the loss of T'Challa in her own way, because, you know, as we all know, Nakia and T'Challa were in a relationship in the first movie, but she just couldn't bring herself to go to the funeral. She's just trying to stay out of the way. She's not doing any spying. She's not doing any intel or none of that like she usually does and what she's known to do. But she's just a teacher in Haiti. She's almost pretty much like she has a whole new life where she's away from everything, where people don't know her. She's like a complete stranger to the people over there, but she's been over there for a while. She's not even, I forgot, she's not a teacher. She's a headmistress. So she's over a school, and she's pretty much like has a whole new life there until something happens and she's called back to Wakanda, or called back to do an assignment. And I'm going to just leave it right there. Okay, I think I pretty much covered all of the characters. Like I said, there's a lot of characters that's to be covered in this movie. It might be a couple that I might have missed. Y'all can forgive me if y'all seen the movie. Y'all know exactly who I might have missed. But I would say also another good thing that I like was the design, the production design of the locations. I can tell the budget was really big for this one, because they went to a lot of places to film this movie. It was a lot of different locations, and it was nice seeing all those locations literally come to life and, look the way that they did. Thank God there was not a conflict where they had to take from their budget like they did with the first movie to throw into Infinity War and Endgame. So the CGI was way better. I'll say that the CGI in this movie was way better than it was in the first movie. Well, at the end. And, we're not going to hold Ryan Coogler's feet to the fire over that. For those of you who were unaware, that's the reason. They took some of the budget from Black Panther to throw into Infinity War and Endgame. I think it was in Endgame, so they could finish up whatever it is they did in post-production. And that's why the fight scene between T'Challa and Killmonger looked like something out of the early 2000s. Because even I was looking at it like, why does it look like that? But that was the reason. But yeah, there it is. The costumes, again, looked great, phenomenal. The directing by Ryan Coogler is always pretty much top tier. Like, the things that this man can do and his ideas and creativity and intellect definitely play out on screen very well. So I really have no complaints there. But of course, even though I'm talking very good about the movie, there's always going to be some things in there that I didn't really like. One of them was, I don't know if it was the theater I was in or if it was something with the music itself in the screening I showed. I'm gonna have to probably see the movie again in order to compare. But for some reason, the sound in some of the parts seemed like the music was overpowering or drowning out some of the dialogue. It was one scene where I heard more of the music and not too much of the dialogue, to the point where I was leaning in my chair to see am I hearing something correctly? So I don't know if that was an issue in the movie that they didn't edit in post, or if that was the theater I was in. That's why I said I'm gonna have to see it again to see if that was the issue that I was having. I guess another issue that I had with the movie, and this actually came from a character that I just talked about, had to be most likely M'Baku. Granted, I love the actor. The actor is phenomenal in the role that he does. His acting is really good in this role. However, I don't like the fact that they are making the only male figure, the only black male figure who is known, because, you know, T'Challa is dead. Killmonger is dead. So it's only just him. I don't like the fact that they're making him too much of a comic relief, especially when it's supposed to be like, you know, it's a serious, you know, situation. Even when he talks about wanting to take out the flying fish guy, and when you know, if you can read between the lines who I'm talking about, he makes it seem like it almost seems childlike. It doesn't sound like it's in a state of a crisis. And I don't like that they keep making him too much of a jokey type of character. I would like him to be a little bit more serious. You know, he can have his little lines here and there, but I don't need him to always be this overly funny guy or try to be this jokester. When it's at a time when it's supposed to be a serious thing, I need him to actually be more serious. Hopefully when they do another Black Panther film, because there's definitely going to be another one, I hope that they do that with his character and make him a little bit more serious and not too much of a jokey type of character. But I really couldn't think of anything else that I didn't like about this movie. It's probably some things that might come to me, but like I said, I'm gonna have to watch it again to see if anything else does come to me. But all in all, if I had to rate this movie, I would give it probably a 8 out of 10, maybe a 7.5 to 8, because while I really did enjoy the movie, I really kind of wish that they did recast the T'Challa character. Granted, like I said before, I wasn't really on the recast T'Challa train at first, but I really wish that we could have had another actor portray that character, especially after that video that I just did for y'all when it said that Harrison Ford was cast in the role of Thunderbolt Ross for the Thunderbolts. I'm like, if they can recast him, why can't you recast T'Challa? So I'm taking that into consideration as well. His presence definitely was missed in the movie, and I'm glad that they threw in little little clips and montages, not sprinkled so much throughout the film, but more so at the beginning and definitely more so at the end, you know, just to remind us, you know, that his presence is still here. However, I just wish that they could have had another actor come in to be that character, because like I said earlier, he still has so much more story to tell. And I feel like we're being robbed of that, especially since this is a black male character in the superhero film that we haven't really had any of those in quite some time. You know, Blade, that was back in the early 90s and early 2000s, and you know, the next Blade that got delayed because of some stuff they got going on. So I guess, you know, I feel like we were robbed of having his story continue, especially since he kicked off in such a great way in Civil War, then had his own movie, and then he appeared in Infinity War and in Endgame. He appeared more in group films than he did his own. He only had one solo film with him, and now it's like we're just kind of tossing him to the side. So I guess you can say that's my other point of my other con, is just the lack of T'Challa being there, because it is called Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And in the movie, we only got a Black Panther maybe about a good 20 minutes. I'm being honest with y'all. We only got Black Panther for about 20 minutes, 20 to 25, no more than 30 minutes. I could, you know, and honestly, because there was so much going on in that scene, it might be a little bit less. So those are my issues that I had with the film right there. Like I said, the movie was still good, but it still had, it was good, but I still think that the first one is held in higher regard for me. I don't think that the second one is going to be able to capture what the first one did. The first one was like a cultural phenomenon. This one, excuse me, is good. It's a good watch. It's entertaining. There's a lot of stuff going on. The acting is great. For me, the acting is literally top tier. Like, that gets an A for me. If I had to do it by grade, the acting by everyone was an A for me. Just everyone was on their P's and Q's. But other little things in there fall a little flat for me. When it comes to the cons that I gave, everything else was good, but the cons definitely still have a place there as well. So the cons for me was, I don't know what it was going on with the sound. Maybe that was the theater. If that was the theater, then I will scratch that off. I wish they could do more with the M'Baku character than what they've been doing, and the lack of T'Challa. There was actually one other thing that I had an issue with, and it was a pro and a con, and that was the action. The pro about the action is the action was good. When the action was shown on screen, it was good. The way that it was set up, the way it was done, the action looked great when it was happening. The con, however, is that I felt there was a lack of action. I'm going to put it like this. If you saw the TV spots and you saw the trailers for this movie, a lot of the action that you did see was shown in those trailers and those commercials or TV spots. I'm going to be completely honest with you. And the thing is, there was action that they happened like more, towards the beginning of the film, not the very beginning, but it happened like in the first like act of the film. But then a good chunk of it happened towards the end of the film, like in that third act. And then it was like a lot of pockets of space in between. I understand maybe for story purposes and they had to try to move stuff along, but I feel like there was a lack of action there in the movie. Now, this is a 2 hour and 41 minute movie. And if I had to guess minute wise, it was probably a good hour worth of action that was just sprinkled out throughout the film. Maybe even a little bit less. I wasn't sitting there counting the minutes, but that's just what it felt like to me. Anybody who saw the movie knows exactly what it is that I'm talking about. But like I said, when the action was there, it looked nice. It will definitely have you hyped up when the action does happen. But I just feel like as a con at the same time, there wasn't enough action. So that's now added into what issues I had with the film itself. So those are my issues right there. So that's pretty much my review for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Y'all let me know what you think. Will you be checking out Black Panther Wakanda Forever, or will you be waiting for it to come on streaming? Because you know that 45-day window with Disney Plus, and it'll be on there probably sometime next month before the end, by the end of the year. Tell me what you think, and I'll talk to y'all later.